Tag TV and Tag Radio be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. Mission impossible. Well, maybe not. Consider what most experts identify as an urgent need within the higher education vertical: university and college full life cycle systems integration. Imagine a virtual, ubiquitous digital community enabling an all-encompassing end-to-end total student engagement platform, seamlessly integrating student information, alumni management, recruiting, admissions, learning management, faculty, administration. From inquiries to administration applicants, students to alumni, register for a class, pay bills, update academic profiles, support campus life, all on a secure enterprise technology in a single mobile application dashboard for end-to-end learning. Whoa. Suddenly, the education landscape changes forever. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, June 18, 2013, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. I'm your guest host, Frank Baia. Innovation, constant change, and emerging technologies will influence the education landscape in the near future. But what happens beyond tomorrow can be seen in what is pushing the bleeding edge of the higher education vertical today. The education system of tomorrow, as we Tech Talk, engaging the connected generation with a level of integration empowerment that is simply disrupting the very structure of learning. As we speak with technology entrepreneur and leader of N2N services, Kiran Kodithala. N2N Services is an application deployment and enterprise solutions firm that supports colleges and universities on the management of the student information systems. As founder of the Atlanta, Georgia-based company, Kiran oversees a team responsible for creating and integrating enterprise mobile and Web 2.0 applications. N2N's products and solutions currently support more than 120 colleges and universities throughout Canada and the United States. The company supports a wide range of operations in addition to encouraging better communications between schools, students, and faculty. Its products enhance enrollment growth and endowment fundraising and increase the efficiency of enterprise resource planning. Engaging the connected generation with a level of integration empowerment disrupting the very structure of learning. Mission impossible, end-to-end leader and technology entrepreneur Kiran Kodithala thinks, well, maybe not so impossible. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Kiran, welcome to Tech Talk.
Hi, Frank. Thanks for having me.
You know, there's a lot of conversation, a lot of activity, especially localized with places like AirWatch dealing with mobile applications. I know that you're an early adopter and a visionary in that space. Let's talk a little bit about the overall arching aspect of the benefits of mobile applications, but really focus on how they relate to, from a technology standpoint, learning and technology, and from the education standpoint.
Sure. You brought up a very good point about AirWatch, so the biggest thing about what's happening with mobile devices is whether it is in private industries or K-12 or education, higher education specifically, there's a lot of emergence of mobile applications, whether it's iPods or iPads or Androids or even now BlackBerry 10 or Windows 8 phones. There's a significant emergence of mobile devices. And the first approach towards fixing this issue as an enterprise is to control them and manage them, and that's why mobile device management has become a hot topic, and obviously AirWatch is one of them, and Mobile Iron is one other examples where they can provision devices and help the customers use certain applications in a certain location. and restrict certain applications in certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the mobile device management. Where my focus has been is to focus on what I would call it as a mobile application management, where there are two types of issues. One issue is the fact that there's a lot of mobile devices entering the enterprise, right? And the other part of the equation is each mobile device is having hundreds of applications, and some of them are related to the enterprise, and some of them are not, and some of them are downloaded personally, by the end user, and some of them are actually prescribed by the enterprise. So what we are focusing on, especially with higher education and also with K-12, is to consolidate all this enterprise-specific applications into a specific dashboard called whether it's a school-specific dashboard. So for University of Toledo, they integrated their registration. We integrated for them the registration system, course roster system, the bus routes applications that they purchased, their learning management system, all into a University of Toledo mobile. And for another school district in Indiana, we've actually integrated all the 35 schools within a single dashboard application where, it seamlessly integrates different assets and different applications that the student needs as part of their, curriculum, if you will. So when they move from third grade to fourth grade, they automatically get fourth grade related, applications,
mm-hmm.
whether it's RASKids or IXL and other applications, and the school can manage at the application level instead of just saying, these are the devices that are allowed to do stuff like that. So
I think, though, when you talk about the environment that you are operating in, it is obviously even more dynamic than the evolving technology impact on the enterprise. When you think about the fact that you've got an independent individuals, and in this case we could compare students to employees, but in many cases the students are learning at earlier and earlier ages to use digital devices and leverage digital technology. And yet on the other side, I'm sure that you, as you're talking about, a lot of the organizations you deal with have both an administrative and a academic component to their technology issues. And how do you see the overall interaction between the evolution of those kind of three verticals, if you will, the students themselves, the individuals starting out as even as young as 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, getting exposed to this kind of technology, and then relating that to the current administration for lowering costs and getting more efficiency compared to the evolution of the dynamics of how to teach.
Right. But there's a third part to this. One is obviously, outreach itself, in the fact that you're absolutely right. When I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old boy, and they both go to a public school system in the greater Atlanta area, and they are on a daily basis, they're using self-study tools like IXL or RASKids or Khan Academy, which allow them to integrate with different courseware that's available to them, public and prescribed by the school. And that the hope is administrators are, specifically K-12, are trying to leverage some of these commonly available tools to reduce cost, and instead of the teachers preparing all the quizzes and all the material by themselves, tools like IXL allow you to leverage commonly available platforms. And the risk with that approach is the fact that each of these tools has its own login ID and password, and they are mostly cloud-based. So that's one challenge that we are trying to fix with the mobile application management process. The second thing higher education is looking for, especially, is they're actually looking for better ways to engage with their customers. And their customers are not homogeneous like what we see with enterprise. Their customer can be a high school student if you are trying to increase your lead generation, right, to get some prospects. And these high school students might be scattered, across the United States. Or when their customer can be student, customer for a registrar can be a current student. Customer for an alumni management system is a student who has graduated. And their needs are, increase the leads, help more applicants to convert them into students, and convert more students into graduates, and convert more graduates into alumni, and ultimately engage them. So when we talk about engagement, it's an important thing because, in previous days, engagement was like, let's send them an email, or, let's send them a paper letter, because that's what was thought as a better way to engage them or to interact with them. But with the mobile generation, we are calling it, the students are very, very, very connected, Rao. So they are now looking for their campuses to interact with them on the mobile device, whether it is sending notifications, or whether it is sending alerts saying the school is closed, or sending an alert saying, your fee is due. And that's precisely what we're focusing on in terms of customer engagement. In that, in our higher education platform, we build our entire workflows to support notification to recruits, prospective students, admissions applicants, students, and in our K-12 platform, we focus on engagement with respect to interacting with the student, teacher, and most importantly, the parent. So we see the mobility as becoming the overarching glue that connects the customers, which is students, with obviously the administrators, and ultimately with the goal of increasing the interaction to help with learning itself.
Do you see a time? One of the things that we talk about is the inevitable. Looking ahead to when all the hybrid happens, all of the infrastructure is laid, all of the grid is completed, and now you've got ubiquitous connectivity. What does an academic environment look like in the next, I'm going to guess, decade, probably less than that, in terms of all of the acceleration of the different activities that are going on? Sure.
You're absolutely right. Even while the stage we're in right now is that academia, there's a battle cry that has begun just a couple of years ago with this. It's called MOOC, like MOOCs for short. It's Massive Open Online Courses. So what it is it's right now there's a MIT Open Courseware is one example where MIT offers complete degrees for free, which is using Massive Open Online that allow students to, instead of spending anywhere from $500 to $750 per credit hour, they literally spend $0 to $200 per credit hour. So why is it important? Is that there is because of the ubiquitous nature of the internet, now why is it, even if you have the best physics professor, would that professor compare, himself with a Berkeley professor or Albert Einstein for that matter? So with the advent of internet, advent of the ubiquitous availability of media like YouTube, there is so much knowledge base available on the internet, and we are right now not leveraging, especially in higher education and K-12, we are not leveraging the power of available learning material. We're still reading off of books, reading off of very much static material. So internet has already started changing the way we learn. So my prediction for, and this is right on line with Thomas Friedman as well, but from New York Times, where we see within the next 10 years the concept of a traditional brick and mortar university will change to a very high degree, where they will start delivering more material on, not just online. It's not just online courses, but it's really making the education more affordable, so that instead of focusing on teaching, we see the focus to shift from teaching to interaction, teaching to facilitation, by leveraging the content that's already available. So, and it's a very dramatic shift, and there are authors like Thomas Friedman predicting that there'll be an end of university itself, but I don't believe that it will be that drastic. The focus would shift from a traditional brick and mortar, instructor teaching the class as everyday student going to the class and teaching, from instructor advising the students to say, this is the material you need to learn. to get yourself accustomed to it for tomorrow's class. When they come to the class, instead of teaching them, the instructor actually interacts with them, facilitates with them.
You know, obviously the evolution of the dramatic impact of big data. Watson has broken out of his games playing on television into a whole spectrum of different functions in terms of even in the health industry advising doctors. I guess at some point you might begin to see the convergence of something like an intelligence base that would be an academic environment that would be more like a Watson, so that the student isn't really dealing with a teacher at all. He may be dealing with knowledge directly, or is that too esoteric?
No, absolutely not. I mean, essentially, the concept of MOOCs is almost exactly what you described. You know, the MIT Open courseware allows the student to log into the courses by themselves and to interact. The interaction with professor is much less. Basically, it focuses on learning as a self-study concept.
Is there personality involved in that, in terms of the teacher?
The faculty is involved, but the faculty is not in a traditional sense, where in a traditional classroom, the faculty basically teaches about a class of 50 or 60. With MOOCs, it might be all the way to 600. It's a much more where what they do with MOOCs is they publish the video, and the teacher and the student learns it, and the faculty basically goes over the summary and allows for facilitation and during the classroom. So there's 2 or 3 concepts that are going on, which I think you will find interesting with your Watson example. One is the flipped classroom example I keep referring to, which is instead of coming to classroom and talking about atomic physics by drawing something on the whiteboard or blackboard, the student is watching the video of the media of atomic physics as defined by Neil Armstrong or Albert Einstein, and coming to the classroom specifically to talk about it. That's called the flipped classroom. The second one is called, very exciting, which very much exactly what you're talking about with Watson, which is the game-based learning, where if you take at complex topics like theory of relativity or evolution, it's very difficult to understand, even comprehend the topics like space-time continuum. But a lot of game builders have actually built pretty sophisticated games that make you get a very good understanding of evolution by making you be part of the game, sometimes playing nature itself. So the schools like University of California are investing heavily into game-based curriculum. So to bring it all together, when you add the power of multimedia and the media that's available on the internet and the games, we see the learning platform evolve where the student will be able to learn about a specific topic by leveraging the power of the resources available on the internet. But instead of doing it purely in a self-directed fashion, the faculty will enable this, where the faculty will say, this is the learning media that you can use, and these are the games you can play. And the faculty, most importantly, will do 2 things, which is what they are really paid for. One is obviously interaction facilitation, and second is assessment. That is what schools are really, universities or colleges are really paid for, to be an accreditation agency rather than where they're actually assessing whether the student is learning. So we see the learning content and the media to be the core material that the student will do self-study on, but in universities will be focused on interaction with the student and assessing the student and ultimately enable the learning itself.
Now, your products and solutions are already supporting some 120 colleges and universities throughout Canada and the United States. Take that insight and the issues and the challenges that you face in getting those institutions interested in understanding what you were bringing to their table, and then kind of balance that off with some recent major statements made by Obama in terms of a commitment to lowering cost. How does that all work together?
Right. So we enable universities and colleges to do many things. One is obviously helping them to get the most value from their student information systems or learning management systems by helping them with increasing efficiencies and decreasing and optimizing the systems for their benefit. But even though those are very valuable stuff, and schools are increasingly seeing that this doesn't help with increasing my revenue, and because they see that students are using their mobile devices to engage with their world, they see the deficiency where most of the tools that they use with the current like SIS and LMS systems are pretty much still PC-based or built in 1980s. So we are now, enabling them by giving them mobile applications to help with increasing the lead generation, helping with converting admissions applicants to students faster, and most importantly, engaging with the students and their advisors and instructors so that they can graduate better and ultimately becoming alumni.
So it's more or less the bottom line is not unlike we see in terms of the enterprise. The case of technology was often, does it either make me money or does it save me money? The truth of the matter is you can't save yourself into success, but you can, in fact, generate more leads and more return on the activities and generate more revenue. So, in effect, you're increasing your effect.
Engagement. But when you look at the current education system, especially public schools, the average graduation rate out of public schools, in U.S. is very appalling. It's almost less than 30%. So one of the things that Obama has done as part of the Department of Education is they have now released a scorecard where anybody who can go and go look up the scorecard saying, what are the different levels, what am I paying for this college? And the scorecard includes the cost of college and the default rate of the student, and after they finish their graduation, how many of the students are defaulting, and most importantly, the graduation rate on number of students graduating. So we are focusing on increasing graduation rate, which ultimately result in if the schools keep the students longer, that's higher revenue, but most importantly, that helps with graduation. And one of the things with Obama's State of the Union address is if they don't increase their core scorecard, their federal funding will be impacted. But he also brought up this whole concept of cutting down costs. And cost is a very significant factor for higher education because they have a lot of fixed costs with faculty. And the reason why the faculty costs are fixed, at least in their mind, is because each faculty member is teaching each class as though he has literally invented the topic. There are some faculty members who consider the course material as their intellectual property, even though they're teaching sometimes very basic stuff like, Physics 101. Because of that, there is no cross-sharing of content, even though the curriculum is established by the school and the core rubrics are established by the school, each faculty member is teaching it completely differently. So we are trying to break the chasm by building a content delivery framework or media delivery framework that allows the faculty members to build learning media, which is videos, audios, or documents, and share it across the university so that the senior faculty member and professors can build prescribed learning content that other instructors can use and ultimately follow best practice. And we see that as becoming a very, very significant step in decreasing the cost of education, because not only can they leverage the media that's generated by the professors within the campus, but we see that once they build the learning content, then they can cross-share the content and build upon it. This initiative, we are calling it a content delivery network at a school called Southern Polytechnic State University in Marietta. We submitted a grant proposal to University System of Georgia as part of their Complete College initiative, and they accepted us and awarded us a grant funding because they liked the proposal. We were one of the 4 grant awardees.
Well, I think, for a lot of our listening audience, certainly for many of our TAG members, what you're talking about, the reaction has got to be wow. and yet to a degree some amazement, but not necessarily surprise, because anyone that knows you and knows your organization knows that you're a thought leader and that you're not only involved in entrepreneurial activities, but also a lot of philanthropic activities. As we are kind of getting to a close because we're quickly running out of time, I think it would be remiss for me not to bring that up and to ask you, tell us a little bit about both the professional and your personal life as it relates to your philanthropic efforts.
Sure. Well, I don't consider myself a true philanthropist in terms of, being committed my life purely to social service. But what I have somewhat carved my organization and my vision towards the philanthropic efforts, and specifically focused on education. And I talk about education, commitment to higher education, commitment to K through 12, by transforming the tools and technologies used in education to enable educational institutions to become more efficient and cost-effective is obviously, I see, the biggest part of my philanthropic effort. In addition to that, I started a nonprofit group called My Green Earth Foundation, which is specifically focused on focused on advocacy and creating awareness towards global warming and global climate change, and how small steps can enable enable people to reduce this threat of global warming. The other two parts which are specifically focused on education is, one of them is Lavia Initiative I founded, which is focused specifically on supporting developing nations and helping schools in developing nations like India, Nepal, and Africa to help them with education. Lavia is short form for Ekalavya, who's basically a mythological figure in Hindu text called Mahabharata. But it's a long story. But essentially, it's a tribal student who learns from his guru because the guru disowns them because he's a tribe and untouchable, by learning using by building his sculpture and learning almost using telepathic skills. So we took that into effect and created Lavia Initiative, saying, let's enable learning in developing nations by giving them computers and other tools so that they can learn from it. But when I went to India, and when my chief philanthropist went to India, we saw that their issues are much more basic, and we saw that they don't have toilets or they don't have basic supplies. So we are now resorting to leveraging our funds to giving them clean water, building some water and sanitation facilities. So we kind of are adjusting our expectation towards global literacy by focusing on enabling schools by keeping the students healthier. One other philanthropic organization, Decatur, called 50 Cents Period. It's also a very cool organization where their focus is to provide sanitary supplies, like sanitary napkins to girl students in developing nations. The reason for that is in developing nations, the girl students are very limited because they decide not to go to school when they have a menstrual cycle because they don't have sanitary supplies, and bathrooms are horrendous or non-existent. So the philanthropist there, she collects funds and specifically to provide them sanitary supplies, and we are one of their prime sponsors as well.
Well, Kiran, unfortunately, we're running out of time. We've run out of time, and so I'm going to cut it short here. But I would love an opportunity to invite you back again, because I think the broad spectrum and the approach that you're taking, top to bottom, from source to consumption, as it relates to a altruistic and somewhat of a materialistic, to a degree, look at education, I think it's truly unique. And I think our listening audience has been impressed not only with what you're involved in, but the vision and how you express your passion towards getting results, and on various levels, including the philanthropic one. So thank you so much for taking time, and I know you were traveling around and it was difficult to get this interview coordinated with you because you're so busy. But thank you for taking time out of that busy schedule to join us for a few minutes today on Tech Talk.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.